Welcome, everybody, to Survive and Advance on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I would like to welcome back from the 1981 national champion Indiana Hoosiers, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
I tell you what, life is total quarantine or total self-isolation out here in Los Angeles is a mess. There's going to be some kind of violent shoot-up coming up here pretty soon. People are going to get pissed off being in their homes.
All right. It's good to be positive and start to show out on a positive direction. I know that our guests today are usually on the NFL show with me, but they decided since there's nothing else they can do but sleep and be in quarantine, from New Jersey, the FF face-off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you? Just actually woke up from a little nap.
All right. Next up, we have our NFL beat writer, Samuel Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on today.
All right, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about all the big signings and trades from week one of NFL free agency. And let's start off with the most recent. And Sam, I know this one makes me feel really good because I know how badly Anthony wanted him. But Emmanuel Sanders is now a New Orleans Saint. And the scary thing here is, Sam, you're putting Michael Thomas with him, and this could make this team really dangerous.
Well, absolutely. I love this deal. I love this sign. This is perfect for New Orleans. They needed a guy. Last year, Ted Ginn was their second receiver, and that was not going to work out for them in the long run. Instead, go get Emmanuel Sanders, who has a history of being on winning teams. He's gone to the Super Bowl 3 different times on 3 different teams. This is a guy who's been on winning organizations before, a good locker room presence, a good leader, and pairing it with Michael Thomas is, to me, a perfect idea. Now, if they can add a receiver in the draft in the first 3 rounds, suddenly you've rebuilt that entire receiving core. I think this is an A-plus move by the Saints.
Yeah, and Anthony, the Cowboys didn't get him, which makes me happy because I don't have to listen to you talk about it now. But I think it's safe to say if the Saints would have had Emmanuel Sanders last year, they might have been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they would be in the mix because they've been missing that number 2 receiver option for a couple of years now. And we've seen them go and sign guys like Des Bryant. They kicked the tires on Antonio Brown, Brandon Marshall, Cameron Meredith. So they've been looking for this piece for quite some time. They finally have it. And if you look at their roster now, I think Emmanuel Sanders vastly upgrades it. It brings in Super Bowl and veteran experience in that locker room. And I think it elevates guys like Traquan Smith, who they asked him to be the number 2 last year. It couldn't really get it done. Now, as a number 3, I think it makes a guy like Traquan Smith that much more dangerous. And if you're the Saints, you may not want to go spend a high pick on a wide receiver so fast and maybe address another need on that team, whether it's interior offensive line or interior defensive line.
Yeah, and Steve, I think it's safe to say this makes the Saints at least one of the favorites going into this season to win the NFC.
Is it just my imagination, or does it seem like in this free agency market so far, the strong teams are getting stronger? And New Orleans is a great byproduct of that right now, that the weaker teams don't seem to be making out that well. But then again, I don't consider Brady and Rivers great choices, so I don't think those players are really going to physically help the Bucs or the Colts that much. But it seems to me the strong teams are getting stronger.
All right, let's go ahead and let's go off of that. We'll skip ahead to what we were going to get to. So you don't think that Tom Brady gives the Buccaneers a better chance to win?
No.
Anthony?
It makes Tampa Bay, to me, an instant Super Bowl contender. If you look at that roster A to Z, and if they add a couple of more pieces to that secondary and a running back who can pass protect, the Bucs are the most dangerous team in football.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Tom Brady over Jameis Winston 10 days out of 10, even if Tom Brady, who's in the early 40s, I mean, he's a guy who's going to limit turnovers as opposed to Jameis Winston, who might throw 30 a year. even if Brady's not at the level he's been in the past, he'll still be better than what Jameis Winston was last year for Tampa Bay. And bringing him to the Buccaneers brings some other extra free agents to the team as well. If they draft pretty well this year, I think they could be a competitor, and I don't see why I wouldn't consider them a potential playoff team.
Yeah, Steve,
Yeah,
why
I
don't you
agree with
consider
that
them?
assessment.
Come on.
I
You can't agree with it.
Sam's
You just said it was a bad pick.
I said I don't think it brings to them $30 million worth of goods and services.
Why's that if it makes them a Super Bowl contender?
I don't believe they'll be a Super Bowl contender.
All right, that you've got what you got to have to win is a big-time quarterback, which it gives him. You need big-time wide receivers. They do need a running back still, but they still got one of the best front sevens in the NFL. And last year, Tom Brady took a team with less talent and went, 11-5, 12-4, made the playoffs. And everybody that says that Brady last year was not very good, with limited talent, he still completed 61% of his passes, 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I think this, if he plays the same way he did this year, I think Tom Brady's going to throw 35 touchdown passes and 5,000 yards next year.
I think Brady's ceiling could potentially be Peyton Manning's first year with the Denver Broncos, where he just shattered records, because Tom Brady, the last time he had an arsenal of weapons like this was Randy Moss and Wes Welker.
And he shattered records.
Well, let me ask you this:
really,
why did the Bucs not go after? Why did the Bucs not go after Gurley? They could have had Todd Gurley for
because he's damaged goods. They can still have it. He's damaged goods.
Well, no, they can't now because he signed with Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah, but he's damaged goods. Why do you want to bring in a running back? I mean, we just talked about a running back that can block and do all this stuff. Todd Gurley's been hurt most of the last. Yeah, he was hurt up pretty much all this year.
He's got arthritis in his knee. I mean, that's something that can be dealt with and trained. I mean, there's no. Yeah, I from what I know, and again, you guys, I defer to both of you, all three of you. But to me, I think Gurley's a good deal and would have been a good addition for the Bucs, and would have created another whole weapon for Brady if you were going to really make a Super Bowl run. Yeah, I think that the money they got him for, because of what the Rams still owe him, he was worth the investment to give it a try and see, because it's likely he wasn't going to get a guaranteed contract.
I think they're going to go
He's
ahead.
got the guarantee money coming from the Rams. $13 million.
I think they're going to bring in a Deion Lewis.
Yeah, and Deion Lewis,
And that
fits
makes
that
all
offense.
the sense in the world.
Yeah, it fits the offense better. If you look at Todd Gurley last year, he played in 15 games. He carried the ball 223 times for 800 and some yards, less than 4 yards per carry. So the thing about him is, I mean, you had two great seasons in 16 and 17, where he was good in 15. Or 17 and 18. 15 he was good. 2016 he averaged 3 yards per carry. I don't think he's a slam dunk that he's that great. I think maybe it's worth the risk. If they would have done that, I don't think it would have been crazy. But I just, right now, the Buccaneers need a couple DBs. They get a DB or two and strengthen the secondary, Sam. This is a team that can make a run at a Super Bowl.
The Buccaneers?
Yeah, we've talked.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing,
Okay.
Steve. I thought the Buccaneers were set up
I'm-
to possibly make a run with Jameis Winston if they could just get him. This is a team that, with Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions last year, was still 7-9. So they weren't that far away to begin with. I think if Tom Brady was there last year, 7-9 turns into 12-4. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that front. You look at that defense first off. Vita Vea out front. That's a great space here. He's great against the run. Devin White and Levante David at linebacker. Those two are tremendous players, especially Levante David. I think he's incredibly underrated. You've got Shaq Barrett. He's coming back. Jason Pierre-Paul. He's good for 8 to 9 sacks a year. Your real issue is your corners and your safety. Now, you could probably address that a little bit in the draft, but I think they should have probably targeted more defensive backs in free agency in my mind, because they really didn't go out and get anyone. The Colts did just cut Pierre Desir. That could be a target for them potentially. And there still are some guys available. So I would look for them to be active in the veteran defensive back market right now, because that's really where you need help. there, running back, and maybe a little bit along the offensive line.
You know, as poorly as that defense has played, Jameis Winston had the 30 interceptions, however many fumbles. How much is taking, let's say, 20 turnovers away? How much does that improve the secondary?
Well, it improves it probably enough to win 3 or 4 more games.
I mean, look at Kansas City. Look how poorly their defense was 2 years ago. They weren't a tremendous defense this year. They improved maybe 10 or 12 spots. And that was enough when you have that type of an offense. So Tampa Bay, realistically, as long as Tom doesn't fall off the proverbial cliff, they're going to outscore you.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Phillip Rivers to the Indianapolis Colts. Steve, you're a Colts fan. You don't like this?
No, I just think for $25 million, you know, Rivers is 17 years in the league. He's pushing 40 if he's not there. I don't know exactly, but I just think that what they're paying Brady, and I don't think that Brady and Rivers are total waste, but they spent a lot of money on 2 players that I think are both past their prime.
Yeah, but
and they're getting prime quarterback money.
But how about this? The Colts have a really good offensive line. The defense is getting better. They still need a couple weapons on offense. You can't win a Super Bowl with Jacoby Brissett. You might be able to win it with Phillip Rivers, so why don't you take a shot, drop to $25 million, and see what happens? I mean, what they did.
The Colts have it. Yeah.
What they did by trading for DeForest Buckner tells you, I think, Anthony, that this is an all-in to win right now for the Colts.
It's got to be. Yeah.
I think so. And what I think they're trying to win with, they're trying to make that defense better. And they have a couple of good running backs and try to make Phillip Rivers do a little bit less.
Yeah, Sam?
I don't think they're going to tank, but I also don't think Phillip Rivers is the answer. Now, I did say if Phillip Rivers was going to succeed, I thought the Colts were the only landing spot because of how that offense is built around that offensive line, because that's what Phil Rivers needs. But I don't know. This is a one-year thing, and I think Andrew Luck can potentially come back. Or
he's not coming back.
They're holding out hope.
Oh, my God. We're doing this again?
Yeah, we're doing it again.
I think Luck's coming back.
Oh, God, now we got 2 of them.
Another one.
We got Larry and Curly. We just need Mo. Andrew Luck is not coming back. It's just not going to happen.
Maybe they're holding out hope.
How about this? If he's coming back, then this is a good signing. You take a shot to win here. But he's not. Sam, what do you think of Rivers to the Colts?
Yeah, I do think he got overpaid a little bit, but if they are in win now mode, which to me, giving away that first-round pick for DeForest Buckner says we are trying to win now. We're trying to get players right now, not develop guys long-term. If that's your motivation, I think Rivers is all right, because realistically you weren't going to get anyone else better from what it sounds like. Sticking Rivers is a little bit of a step up in my mind over Jacoby Brissett. But at the same point, I still think this kind of falls short. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, that secondary still has a lot of holes. I don't think it's good enough overall to get there. They do remind me a little bit of the Buccaneers, just with some lower-grade offensive weapons and basically the same issues in the secondary. But for me, they just don't have enough to really compete at that level right now.
All right, the Denver Broncos have signed Melvin Gordon. Gordon turned down a contract extension with the Chargers last year that would have paid him $10 million annually. And then Austin Eckler happened in his holdout year, and now it's turned into $8 million a year. My question here, Anthony, is this. Denver already has an entrenched 1-2 punch with Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman under contract at tailback. Does this make a lot of sense to you?
It makes sense if they move off of one of those other running backs and try to get, because both Rivers and Freeman, they're only maybe 2 years into the league apiece, so you can get something for them. I also think this is a move. Melvin Gordon is familiar with the division. I think he is a lot more of an explosive playmaker, especially as a receiver, than either one of their other backs. And he adds a different dynamic to this offense. To me, this is a sign by Denver that I think we're going to see a lot of running of the football and a lot of play action out of Drew Lock.
Yeah, and I think what this shows us, Steve, is that teams know to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you got to run between the tackles, and you got to play defense. And I think that we've seen right here the Broncos are making the moves, and the Chargers kind of did the same thing because you got to defend the pass, and they stacked the secondary. So I think what we saw with the Broncos and the Chargers, but especially the Broncos, is they're making moves to be able to combat what the Kansas City Chiefs do.
Yeah, I guess my question for you guys is that in this league, the way things are set up to protect the quarterback now and the way you can't even, flag football doesn't even work, it seems like, on quarterbacks anymore. Do defenses win championships in the NFL anymore, Mike?
Yeah. There just aren't as many of them. And, you can make the case that the Chiefs' defense kind of won them a championship this year. It didn't do it till the Super Bowl, but in the Super Bowl they shut out the Niners in the fourth quarter, won the game. But when we look, same question to you, Sam, that I asked Steve that he didn't answer.
Yeah, I think this is a good move by them to try to counter Kansas City. I do like what they've done in total this entire offseason. I like what the Broncos are doing. They've got guys in their secondary now with franchise tight Justin Simmons and bringing in A.J. Bouye. They've done moves to counter the passing game of Patrick Mahomes, and now hopefully with Melvin Gordon, you have a little more control in your offense. You're able to slow things down and keep Mahomes off the field. I do think the Broncos, it's actually kind of interesting. I like what this division has done overall, really. I mean, the Chargers and the Broncos, in my opinion, have both gotten better. They've both done a good job from relatively poor situations last year, and now they're in a scenario where I think both of them could maybe not defeat Kansas City, but actually compete and be competitive in those games and give Kansas City a little bit of a challenge in that division.
All right, Sam, I'm going to stay with you because the Pittsburgh Steelers actually signed somebody in free agency, which is almost as surprising as when the Bengals do it. They signed tight end Eric Ebron. What do you think of that?
It was a little surprising, first off, because I'm not used to them signing free agents. So for me, I was like, I can't believe they actually did this. So I'm sort of just happy they did something in general, but at the same time, it's a little confusing because they picked up Vance McDonald's option. They did restructure his deal, so they picked up Vance McDonald's option. I thought that was a candidate they might choose to move on from to save some money, but they picked him up, and then they signed Eric Ebron. Having two tight ends is not necessarily a bad thing, especially when they're both viable pass catchers. But at the same point, it's both kind of mediocre tight ends who are middling a little bit. I do worry that you're going to end up paying too much money to the tight end position and not get a lot of production out of it. So it's a little bit of give and take. I am overall happy, though, they're adding to that offense. And now Pittsburgh cannot draft a tight end. They have tight ends on the roster now. So you can use that draft pick somewhere else.
All right, the Falcons.
Well, and Pittsburgh, I mean, with Ebron, he's pretty well used to working in a two tight end set. Sam, wouldn't you agree there? I mean, with the Colts, they ran a two tight end set a lot, and Ebron's already got that mentality inflicted into his on-field presence. So is it that big of a deal? I mean, maybe they're going to shift their offense around just a little bit and kind of, put the ball on the ground a little more.
No, I don't have a problem with them running two tight end sets. I don't have a problem with them using them as run blockers either. My concern is really in the passing game. Because I've heard Eric Ebron has a little bit of a diva mentality from some reports about not getting the ball. And realistically, I don't think it's clear which tight end is going to be the guy who gets the ball more often. And I don't think Eric Ebron is going to get as much production from the Steelers' offense as he has with the Colts in the past because of their two tight ends and a situation where I think Vance McDonald still has a bit of an advantage of having some rapport with Ben Roethlisberger already.
Yeah, and I think, Anthony, that Detroit and Indianapolis had the frustration that by the middle of this next season, Pittsburgh's going to have a very key run.
Well, yeah, because not only Eric Ebron, he drops a ton of passes, but he also has an issue staying healthy, and that's also something that has haunted Vance McDonald. So you have two quality tight ends who, if they're on, they could be one of the better tandems in the league. But there's also the shot that they're both hurt by week 10. Then what?
Yeah,
I
the
think
Bengals
what the
won the
Steelers
division.
I think the Steelers are showing more and more what I've been saying for a while now. They're trying to transition their team a little bit, no longer having the firepower of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and they're going to try to win with defense, tight ends, and you have a couple of quality receivers, but it's going to be a different feel for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger this year.
All right, Todd Gurley goes to the Falcons. I know, Steve, you still think this is a good signing. I don't think it's a bad signing necessarily, but they did cut Devonta Freeman. I don't know. I just, right here, I think Dan Quinn's about to lose his job, and I don't think Gurley, with arthritis in his knee, is not what I want. I don't want a running back in my backfield running around for arthritis in his knee, Steve.
No, I agree. All I'm saying with Gurley is that the Falcons don't have a lot of money invested into him. The Rams are paying the bulk of it.
But that's what I'm saying. But the worry here is, and I'll ask Anthony real quick, with Devonta Freeman not there, they really need Todd Gurley to be able to play.
Yeah, and to me, the bigger head scratcher, you move off of Devonta Freeman because he has lower body issues, and you bring in Gurley, who has lower body issues. That's the biggest head scratcher here.
Real quick, we got a comment from one of Steve Risley's biggest fans, and Lucas Weiss says to tell Steve hi for me.
Oh, hi, Lucas.
All right.
Been following him. He's been lucky still down at baseball, I think.
You ain't been following him that close because I think they quarantined him back to Canada.
Quarantine.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we'll go with Anthony because his Dallas Cowboys signed safety, Clinton Dix. What do you think? I think this is actually a great signing.
Hey, before we go there, can we jump back on the Falcons? And
sure.
Are they all of a sudden now, because they got Fowler as well? Are they a playoff team again now, Mike?
No, they're going to get their ass smoked, and Dan Quinn's going to get fired.
Okay.
But Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Reports says that the Falcons are his dark horse team.
Really?
Yeah. And I just don't see it with Dan Quinn at coach. I still think this team was ruined in that Super Bowl, and I don't think anything's changing there until they change the head coach. But I will compliment the Dallas Cowboys now by saying I think Clinton Dix was a very good signing, Anthony.
I like the signing. It addresses help at safety. He's jumped around from Washington, Chicago, Green Bay, and has been effective. He's not a superstar, but I think he'll be a good locker room guy, and he's extremely reliable, and he'll bring some stability to the safety position in Dallas.
All right. You like the Clinton Dix signing, Sam?
Yeah, I think is one of the, I wouldn't say top 10 safeties in the league, but he's in that top 15, 20 range perhaps. And now what it does for Dallas is now with that first-round pick, maybe you don't have to draft David McKinney. Maybe you can focus on taking a cornerback.
Right.
That's really where you need help right now. So now that frees up your draft pick to go and chase someone where you need in a more serious position.
All right, Steve?
Have the Cowboys given up on Prescott?
Huh?
They put the franchise tag on him.
That's what I thought. But, everybody keeps talking about going after quarterbacks and going after different players. I don't understand what's keeping the Cowboys from being in the Super Bowl? Because I thought they were one of the best teams in the NFC last year.
Jason Garrett got the blame for that. But, really what could be keeping them, I don't know, could be Jerry Jones at this point.
I would say this. What keeps the Cowboys from going to the Super Bowl is Jerry Jones, Jason Garrett, and everybody else there. But I think that they probably haven't given up on Dak Prescott yet. And I would say this. When we look at the Patriots, and we talked about this the other day, and we questioned a little bit of the moves that Bill Belichick was allowing to happen, Sam. They shipped clutch safety Deron Harmon to the Lions for a swap of day 3 picks. But Thursday, they turned around and they signed a player that I think is better than Harmon, and Adrian Phillips. So,
Yep.
Sam, I mean, when you look at this, Bill Belichick made the right move again.
Well, this is what he does. He's very good at finding guys who maybe don't get the star power or they don't get the high-level contracts, but he goes out, finds them, and puts them in roles with his team where they're able to perform at high levels. And Adrian Phillips was a guy who contributed as a part-time starter for the Chargers the last couple of years. And he's a first-team All-Pro special teamer in 2018. So this is a guy who can do multiple things for your team, both on the defensive side of the ball and as a special teamer. And I think the Patriots love that kind of versatility. So I do agree with you. I think this is an upgrade for them actually in the long term.
All right, what do you think, Anthony?
No, I love the move. I love the move for New England. I think it's a pretty big loss for the Chargers, but they also signed Chris Harris, so their secondary will be fine. I know Harris is a cornerback, but I'm sure they'll find a safety somewhere. To me, the Chargers, from top to bottom, if they stay healthy, they have one of the more talented teams in the league, no matter if Tyrod's the quarterback or not.
Right.
Whoever the quarterback is, they're not going to have to do much if this team stays healthy.
All right, so, Steve, are the Patriots still a playoff team with Bill Belichick in charge?
I think so. I think that he just is one of the 2 or 3 best coaches to ever coach a game, and I think that as long as they stay within their system. Now, the curious thing is to see how much money they got to spend on quarterback, because Brady was notorious for taking low cuts or low salaries to allow money to be freed up to pick up other players. Is that going to go away? I mean, who are they going to get? Who are they looking at as bringing in a quarterback that can run Belichick's offense?
I think they're looking at Jarrett Stidham doing it.
I have a dark horse, and I don't know if I brought it up the other day. Maybe I did on this show. I brought it up on my show, and I almost made my co-host gag. What about Joe Flacco?
Yeah, I know why your co-host almost gagged.
Do you think they kicked the tires on Flacco?
No.
It seems like a Patriots move, and they don't want to spend a lot of money at quarterback.
Yeah.
But Anthony, let me put it this way. I think Joe Flacco's closer to retiring than Eli Manning. Eli Manning's been retired for a couple of months now.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean,
the only guy more retired than Joe Flacco is Andrew Luck. So, all right.
Coming back.
Now, we get the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm with you, Steve. I believe he'll be back in 2020.
Well, all I know is this, Sam, you've been around this show for a while. When me and Anthony make predictions, who's usually right?
You've got a little bit of a lead right now.
Okay.
Oh,
now, you know I do. Anthony, come on.
We got to start keeping track.
Okay, we could go back through them real quick if you want, but the Arizona Cardinals signed linebacker Devondre Campbell. Campbell led the Falcons in tackles last season. He joins Devon Kennard as a recent Cardinals signing, and together, this gives the Cardinals upgrades at linebacker. They've already got DeAndre Hopkins. Are the Cardinals a playoff team, or at least a playoff contender, headed into next year, Steve?
Go ahead. I was researching something else.
I just asked if the Cardinals are a potential playoff team for next year.
No.
Okay. Sam?
I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they are putting themselves in a good position to compete with the Seattle Seahawks and San Francisco 49ers. If they were in a weaker division, maybe even the NFC East, I would say they have a better chance. But right now, against San Francisco, that just went to the Super Bowl, and Seattle, who's always going to be competitive as long as Russell Wilson is there, I still think that the Cardinals are just missing something. Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's Kyler Murray not fully reaching his potential yet, but I still think they're a little bit away from the playoff run.
Anthony?
I would sign off on the fact that they could be a playoff team Because if you look at some of their losses, I mean, I think both of those San Francisco losses were either 3 or 7 points. And now you add in the DeAndre Hopkins, Kenyon Drake, who really, he broke out at the end of last season, as well as so did Chase Edmonds. They're adding some pieces on defense. I think Kyler Murray is going to get the job done. It wouldn't shock me, especially with the extended playoff seeding, if the Cardinals snuck in. I'm not going to lock it in, but it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah, I think there's a chance they make the playoffs. I think there's a good chance that they make the playoffs. Next up.
Hey, real quick, I was doing research. Going back to the Patriots, Mike and I asked you this question. How's Dalton fit into the playoffs mentality?
To the what?
Patriots.
How does the Patriots?
I would think if they were going to do it, they'd have already done it.
Because I see him as a Belichick-type quarterback, just a workman, a yeoman, doesn't make a ton of mistakes, and kind of is an offensive-minded player, not a superstar-minded player. I like Dalton a lot. And that's what I was looking at.
Well, from what I hear, Belichick likes him too, so hopefully Belichick will get him, because that means the Bengals will get something out of him also. All right, the Los Angeles Chargers signed Chris Harris Jr., and I think with what they've got here, Sam, I think the Chargers, even with Tyrod Taylor, could have a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's really them and the Broncos are both really bolstering their teams up here, and I think they could really compete with Kansas City, especially because you look what they did. They added Brian Bulaga on the offensive line. They traded for Trey Turner. So it's two good offensive linemen on a line that's been terrible the last couple of years. They franchise tagged Hunter Henry. They brought back Austin Eckler. They brought Linval Joseph in to help the defensive line. He's a great presence in the middle. And you add Chris Harris to your secondary, and you're getting Derwin James back after he went on IR last year. So now, to me, this is one of the most talented teams in that division, besides Kansas City even. I think this is a team that really could win 10 games, I think.
Anthony?
Yeah, I same here. I love their roster. I think Tyrod Taylor is a playoff quarterback. We saw him bring the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs with a lot less talent around him. And if you can get this running game going, I do think they add another running back somewhere. Nothing more key, but something to complement Austin Eckler. They brought back Henry. They have a couple of nice receivers. And the Achilles heel last season was defensive injuries. If they can get that under control, Chargers going to be dangerous. That whole AFC West, outside of maybe Las Vegas, weird saying that, it's going to be a tough division. The West overall are going to be two tough divisions.
Yeah, and I think you also look at the signing of defensive tackle Linval Joseph, which, I mean, that was basically a money move the Vikings had to make because of the cap hit there. I think the Chargers are a viable contender, Steve. What do you think?
Yes. But I think they always will be, though. I mean, they're a solid-based football team that's not just reliant on Rivers. I don't think they'll miss Rivers that much. But I agree it's just going to be a very tough division to come out of. Everybody but the Raiders can make the playoffs, I believe, in the AFC West.
All right. So do you think their quarterback situation is good enough to make a run at the playoffs?
I don't think it got any worse.
Okay. Next up, the Chicago Bears.
I mean, I say I'm not a Phillip Rivers fan. I don't think the Colts got anything really spectacular in getting him. I think they spent a lot of money.
I don't disagree with you. I think Tyrod Taylor is better for the Chargers than what Phillip Rivers is right now.
Yeah, I think he can do more. He's got younger legs under him. I just think that, so, yeah, it was a good move to just go ahead and dump a lot of money and send him off to the Colts. And the Colts had a ton of money to pay, so I think it strengthens the Chargers big time. But like I said, that's just a very tough division to come out of.
All right, the Bears. Steve, good deal to trade a 2020 fourth-round compensatory pick for quarterback Nick Foles?
I believe so. I think Foles fits into the Bears' mentality very well. I mean, you look at the Bears, and their mentality is a lot like what Philadelphia's was when he led Philadelphia to the Super Bowl. And I think he's going to be a better fit in there, and that's probably one of the few places where I think Foles will really go back to being the Nick Foles that we all fell in love with in their Super Bowl run.
All right, Anthony, my question is this. If they start him off as the backup, then that gives Foles a chance to unlock his powers later on during the season.
I am not optimistic with Nick Foles to the Bears because we've seen him fall in his face everywhere outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, but everywhere outside of Philadelphia included Jeff Fisher.
What about Jacksonville?
Yeah, Doug Marrone. So
took the Jags to the AFC Championship game.
Yep. What's
with
that
Blake
mean?
Bortles.
Yeah, one time. Just one time. And then what's he done?
That's more than the Cowboys got in like 30 years.
Yeah, but that's not really saying anything to compare a team to possibly the worst run franchise in football, the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, guess I left myself open for that one.
I'm glad you don't fight it anymore, though. But, all right, another great signing was the Broncos getting Jarrell Casey. I think we can agree with that. Let's go to the Dolphins. What do you think about all the moves the Dolphins have made so far this free agency offseason, Steve?
I think they're strengthening their team, their core, which is what they needed to do, and not just rely on individual players to build. I like the core defensively and offensively that they're building.
All right, Anthony?
I love everything they're doing in Miami so far. We still don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. We believe they're going to get one in the draft. They need help at wide receiver. They got a little help at running back in Jordan Howard. Their defense is going to be really good. I'm just not too sold on the offense yet. But if you really think about it, at the end of the season, their offense started putting up points with much less and with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. So I think the Dolphins, I like Brian Flores. I think they're going to surprise some teams this year. Not saying playoff team, but they're gonna win 6-8 games, and if they bring in a Tua, who knows?
All right, Sam, Dolphins.
Yeah, I like what they've done. They've added 2 new starting offensive linemen, and we said the offensive line was one area they really need to fix. You bring in Jordan Howard, so now you have an actual running back there. You add Shaq Lawson, Emmanuel Ogbah. That gives you a little bit of help in terms of rushing the passer. Kyle Van Noy from New England, that's a huge pickup in my mind. That's one of the best signings they've made this entire year.
Yeah.
And you also bring in Byron Jones. Now you have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard lining up next to each other at the moment. So for me, they've added a lot to this team right now. I still think it's just the framework. They still need to improve a little bit more on the offensive line. I think they need another receiver probably, maybe even another tight end at this point. But right now, it's building itself up. And a year from now, I could see them being very good. I don't know about this year right now, but next year I could see Miami starting to be competitive.
All right.
Well, here's my question.
Good.
Here's my question to you guys. Have the Patriots fallen off? I mean, does the Patriots bring more quality to the AFC East? And I mean, are the Patriots not falling off, really? Losing Brady wasn't a big loss to them.
Well, you said they were going to make the playoffs.
Edelman. What?
You said they'd make the playoffs, so they're not really falling off.
Well, but are they Super Bowl contenders to the degree that they've been in the past?
No.
I think they'll make the playoffs.
I don't.
But, you know, there's talk now that Edelman's going to go to Tampa Bay to re-hook up with Brady. So,
hey, you know what I also heard?
compete?
I also heard that Andrew Luck may unretire and go play for the Patriots. Isn't that right, Anthony?
Well, you did say that.
I said if he was going to unretire and go play for somebody, he'd go to New England. But
Well, that all
he would
depends
still
on.
be tied to the Colts.
yeah, but he's still tied to being retired, and that's never going to change. I just like to say that to piss Colts fans off.
I think you're right, but it's wishful thinking.
He's not coming back.
I
Why would he
actually
want to
think
come back
he'll
and play for an organization that didn't protect him?
Really, at this point, why would you want him back? I mean, he's been out of the league, 2 years?
You'd
Well,
want him
Ben,
back
and-
because you've got a 40-year-old almost Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
That would be why you'd want him back. All right, so let's look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Sam, what's your take on what the Bengals have done?
The Bengals have done all right. They've actually gone out and spent money on some guys. They've had 2 corners, and Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander. That's some depth there that needed terribly the last couple of years. DJ Reader is an underrated signing in the middle. He's the guy who'll make a difference to our defense. You bring back A.J. Green. And now, as far as I'm concerned, it just matters what you do with the draft. Make sure you get Joe Burrow, and then build up from there. Look at some offensive line spots. But you're already getting Jonah Williams back this year. I think the Bengals are in a good spot to compete in the AFC North, particularly because I don't see Baltimore succeeding the way they did this past year again. I think Pittsburgh's turning down, and Cleveland's always going to be Cleveland. So that leaves the door open for the Bengals to step up again and win some games.
Yeah, I think it's no doubt the Bengals win the AFC North. You agree, Anthony?
I'm not going to say there's no doubt, but I think they're going to win a lot of football games. This is another team that we can talk about possibly entering the playoff picture. I love what they have on offense. Sam said a lot of the signings, but 2 of the biggest signings, I believe, are Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander in that secondary.
Yeah, because I don't think
Both from the Vikings.
I don't think they're necessarily great players, but they've played together before, and they replace a couple huge failures that the Cincinnati Bengals have drafted over the last couple years. And also, there's a lot of rumors that maybe Alec Ogletree, the linebacker, will go to the Bengals. I've saw a few other rumors about a couple other guys, so they may not even be done yet. Steve, what's your take?
What are they doing at quarterback? Have they given up entirely on Dalton?
Yes.
Or is he still in the? So he's definitely not coming back.
No, they're going to draft
Okay,
Joe
and
Burrow.
what are their? But that's a big hope, isn't it, that he's available? Because are they going to take him with a first-round pick?
Yeah.
They're going to have to.
Would it be completely shocking for Mike Brown to trade out of that pick, load up this roster for Andy Dalton? I know it's a nightmare for Bengals fans, but would it surprise you?
Yes, it would surprise me now.
Okay.
Because I don't think he would pay this much money the way he has right now to load up this roster and then not bring in Joe Burrow. The other thing is this. They basically raise season ticket prices already. Nobody's paying for tickets if there's no Joe Burrow. He has to do this. Sam, am I wrong here?
No, there's only one option. There's only one option for the number 1 overall pick, and that's to take Joe Burrow. After everything that's gone on in the last couple of months, if you do not draft Joe Burrow, it's the total collapse of the Bengals franchise. I mean, that's basically what it would be.
Yeah.
You have to take Joe Burrow. That's your future at this point.
Yeah. Because there's a huge difference between Joe Burrow and Andy Dalton, Steve.
Okay.
One will be a legend. The other just goes to the playoffs a lot.
Yes. Okay.
I like Dalton better than most, so.
It doesn't matter. Andy Dalton's never going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Joe Burrow will. That's simple.
Okay.
He's that good. I think Trevor Lawrence next year will be too. I think if Tua Tagovailoa stays healthy, he could be. But, all right. We missing any teams here? I'll tell you, my favorite Dolphin signing was still Jordan Howard, though. And I think the Raiders got a steal with Corey Littleton also. But how about this? Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater. What do you think about that, Steve?
Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a yeoman, journeyman, backup quarterback, and I don't think he's the answer to the Bama problem.
I'm not a Teddy guy either.
I'm not a Teddy guy either. Sam, are you a Teddy guy?
I wouldn't say I'm a Teddy guy, but I think he's better than Cam Newton at this point. So
Well, yeah.
maybe it's a bit of an upgrade
much.
for them.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much to be better than Cam Newton right now. Where's Cam Newton end up? Any opinions? Any of you?
Chargers. I think.
And
I think there's a
Chargers
shot
as
in New
well.
England.
I don't think there's a chance in hell he is going to the Chargers. I think
New
Tyrod
England.
Taylor is the starting quarterback.
You think the Patriots want to screw with him?
No.
I mean,
I don't. This is the thing.
Cam
This is
Newton's
the
a
thing
head
you got to
case.
realize, Anthony. Cam Newton, head case or not, does not fit the Bill Belichick system.
Well,
Right.
but does he fit Josh McDaniels? If you go back and look at Tebow, if you look at the fact that, McDaniels was willing to coach Baker, who's a little bit more mobile than Tom Brady. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them if Bill Belichick wants to try to resurrect Cam.
I would put it past him that Belichick's going to change what he wants to do on offense. Jason McDaniels changed what he was doing as soon as he left New England, and where did he end up? A couple years later, right back in New England. So the Bill Belichick system works if you got the right quarterback. The right quarterback there is not Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And if you
And
go
I'm
with
like,
Cam
I'm like a
Newton,
Dalton.
But you can't think that Cam Newton's going to be a backup.
he sucks, so why wouldn't I think that? I mean, he could go back up Lamar Jackson, and they both could suck together.
I can't. I don't
like-
know. I'll believe it when I see it.
Believe what? That Cam will be a backup?
Yeah, I
Who's
don't see it at all. I do
What
not
what
see
teams
it.
could he start for?
Miami,
The only one.
New England,
Ryan,
Chargers.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is better than him. Jarrett Stidham's better than
Oh,
him.
here we go.
Oh, here we go. Well, it's true.
He could start for the Carolina Panthers over Teddy.
No, Teddy Bridgewater's better.
No, they're not doing that.
I'm just saying.
I'm just
The
saying
only,
this.
the only team.
Remember this. I was mocked all last year when I said Lamar Jackson's doing great. Wait till he gets to the playoffs and somebody defends him. They got to the playoffs, somebody defended him, and he sucked. 5 years ago, when we first started these shows, I caught a lot of hell because I told everybody Cam Newton sucks. 5 years from now, he won't even start in the NFL. And everybody on the show, except for Matt Andruskavich, he agreed with me. Everybody on the show mocked me. I get people tweeting stuff to me, mocking me. Where are those people 5 years later as Cam Newton doesn't even have a freaking team to play on? So, mock me all you want, but 5 years from now, Lamar Jackson's going to be a backup somewhere. Boom. Sam?
I was just saying the only places I could see going to where I could win a starting job would probably be Jacksonville or Washington. That's it. That's the only
Gardner
place I can see him going
Minshew's
right.
better. Yes, he could go to Washington and beat out Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, see that's when my co-host keeps putting Cam in Washington with Ron.
Yeah, that's the only place I could really see where he should start right away. I mean, I'm
Dwayne Haskins,
I'm
we
not
talked-
impressed. He's
We're
a
talking
front
about Dwayne
runner.
Haskins. Like he's not Dwayne Haskins is not an NFL quarterback from what we saw last year. So
Well,
I would think if you get Newton can come in and beat him out right away, even if he's hurt a little bit.
my take is this: Cam Newton is a front runner. As long as everything's going fine, Cam will be, he'll be great. As soon as it's not fine, game over. Because he's a front runner. That's all he is. If things are going well, he's great. If things fall down, he falls apart. Anything else we want to talk about?
Yeah,
Anthony?
I just think,
Steve?
Mike, defending you, in all seriousness, you've been that way about Cam Newton for a long time, that he's a front runner, and you've converted me into that mentality. as well. Things have to be hunky-dory, and he's got to be at the top of the food chart.
Hey, Steve,
for him
real
to
quick.
play well.
Sam is young. You'll have to explain to him what hunky-dory means.
I don't know, but I have one question. How the hell did Houston lose to North Carolina State?
You know what? This is the weird thing, because I got a text from Lucas like 20 minutes ago asking how the hell Houston lost to North Carolina State. And it is very simple. When you can't shoot free throws and Guy Lewis is your coach, you can lose to North Carolina State.
Yeah, then I feel horrible for our boy if he starts thinking like I'm thinking. That ain't good.
Same
for
thing I was
Lucas.
thinking. I don't think Lucas is
know.
listening right now because he said he was going to listen later. But I don't know. Do you have any opinions on the Houston, North Carolina State 1983 National Championship game, Anthony?
Negative.
Okay. Sam?
Look, I'm a little bit young here, but
You've never watched a game?
No, I watched the game. Don't worry, I've watched it, but
I haven't watched it either. Don't worry.
Wait a second. Anthony, you've never watched Jim Valvano's Miracle in Albuquerque from 1983.
Yeah, maybe on a 30 for 30.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not a basketball. I'm not a basketball guy.
I'm not a hockey guy, but I've watched like the 1980 Miracle on Ice. Have you ever seen the Miracle on Ice incomplete?
No.
You've never
But
seen
I've
it.
listened to Al Michaels call a lot.
Oh my God,
Sam.
Sam.
I've seen it semi-live.
No, you didn't, Sam.
I saw it
live
what
yet.
I said. I saw it semi-live.
You mean you were semi-alive?
No, we were at the Hilton Hotel in Ann Arbor, Michigan, when they showed the tape delay of it.
Okay. And I watched it without knowing what happened at 8 o'clock at night because I turned off all means of communication, which weren't much in 1980. And I watched the game and didn't know who won. Sam, have you seen the Miracle on Ice the complete game?
I've seen most of it. I missed a little bit.
Oh
of the
my
first quarter
God,
while
this
I was
is
going on one time, but
just
I
messed
watched
up.
it.
How in the hell can you even consider yourself remotely American if you've never seen the Miracle on Ice complete?
Like, I've watched.
I
like
gotta
90%
agree
of it.
there.
What's your defense, Sam?
I've watched like 90% of it.
Yeah. That's like going out with a lady and only going 90% of all the way. You're still not completing your mission, correct, Steve?
100% on that one, baby, and I'm 61. I'm a senior citizen in this COVID.
So what you're trying to say is
virus.
this, Steve. 90% is all the way when you're 61 years old.
Yes, it is. Trust me, if you can get to 90%, you're doing good.
Oh, hell. All right.
You young whippersnappers, Sammy. Just wait.
Now
Your
you've
day
got
will
to
come.
explain to Sam what a whippersnapper is.
Well, there'll come to a point in time when Sammy will need Viagra, not just want to take it for.
Okay, once again, you
fun.
never need Viagra unless you eat junk your whole life and clog your arteries up. That's all that is. I can tell you this. For 2 months, I ate nothing but vegetables. Everything worked perfectly fine. So, if you don't fill yourself with processed foods, little Steve will still work without a pill, Steve. Sam, can I get an amen to that?
I'm not backing you up on that one just yet, Mike, all right?
Oh, Anthony would. I'm right, ain't I, Anthony? You're a fitness freak. Everything works fine as long as you eat good.
Of course.
You eat junk, then your stuff don't work.
I don't eat junk.
You know, it's kind of like an elevator. If you don't grease the things to take the elevator to the top, eventually it's going to dry up and you're going to get about halfway there, and that's as far as it'll go. And then before you know it, crashes down, and then your wife's on a different elevator.
I'm 35. You got to grease it a couple times a day still.
Are you talking about by yourself, or do you get help?
Well, I'll take what I can get.
All right. Okay, this show is really what the hell. Anthony, anything else you want to bring up?
No. My
Sam?
technique, no.
Sam?
I mean, are we going to talk about how bad Houston screwed this offseason up?
Oh, are you talking about 1983?
I was talking about Bill O'Brien, but
No, I think he's talking about
I
football
think that's
this year.
the jinx of Guy V. Lewis and the Houston Cougars 5 Slamma Jamma. Nothing's went right in Houston since. If you look at it, the Cougars have not done anything since 5 Slamma Jamma. We look at the other teams. The Houston Oilers constantly failed in the playoffs and moved. The Houston Astros.
Yeah, they got Kelvin Sampson.
They
now.
won. The Astros won the World Series, but then we found out they cheated. So actually, the entire city of Houston's problems can probably be traced back to Guy V. Lewis, which has led to Bill O'Brien being a complete and utter fool. Because he gave up. I mean, this dude is helping making the Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury look like a genius. And the scary thing here, Anthony, is the rumors I heard was the other two teams that had a shot at Hopkins that were actually talking about the trade were the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Wow.
So if he'd went to the Eagles or the Bengals, that's a win-win, because if he goes to the Bengals, that's my team. If he goes to the Eagles, that means your team's screwed even more. So it would have been perfect. Not that I don't like the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't. So, all right. Is that enough on the Houston Texans? Because I think we beat them up all week, didn't we?
A lot.
Okay. Steve, anything else you want to talk about before we go that is not pertaining to freaking NASCAR?
No, other than if you want to really have an enjoyable time, at 1 o'clock on CBS comes on the Kentucky-Duke game, which is one of the classic college basketball games of all time.
You know, that'll cause people in Kentucky to jump off the roof of their houses. Luckily, double-wide trailers are only so high, so it'll just end up to a lot of bad bruises.
Did you hear about the war between the Hoosiers and Kentuckians?
Yeah, Steve, tell us about that.
Kentuckians were throwing hand grenades across the Ohio River. Hoosiers were pulling the rings and throwing them back.
That's a good one. It always is a good one. That joke is circa 1976.
I know. Well, so am I.
It's still a good joke, and Sam's never heard it because he doesn't live in Indiana or Kentucky. And he's not old enough to remember 1976 jokes. And neither is Anthony.
Nope.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it up. Anthony, you want to tell everybody where they can find you outside of your Bowflex?
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow me at my show at the FF Face Off, and we can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms. And I train at a gym. I just can't right now, so I have to get to do the Bowflex.
Which I got to tell you, FF Face Off was one of the best shows the Grilling Truth puts on.
Will you quit kissing ass?
Steve
can't even figure out how to use the computer to do this show hardly, much less listen to somebody else's.
Wow.
I think it's a good show, Anthony, and it's one of the few shows I actually listen to and try and follow.
All right. That's why Risley has so much football knowledge. Is all because of you, Anthony. Sam, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Sam_Teets33. I'm constantly posting new sports stuff, polls, articles, all that kind of stuff, so feel free to check that out.
All right. Steve, we know where we can find you.
In the gutter somewhere, no doubt.
At Risley34, right?
Or at AOL.com or at any SRisley34 on Twitter, on whatever, all of them.
And if you want to talk to Steve.
Can we talk about Dockage real quick?
What about
his
Dockage?
New mess? Did you read about him?
Oh, yeah, about the Scottsburg coach?
Scottsburg coaching thing? Yeah, he's got himself in hot water again.
Well, let's do this. Let's run another Survive in Advance either later tonight or maybe tomorrow, and we can discuss that and the basketball stuff.
Sounds good to me.
Because it's not like we got anything else to do other than just do random shit on the internet. That's
Sounds
a good point.
But we have... Yeah, okay, we'll do it.
Do you think we could
We
get
got to
Dan
get
on?
Anthony back on, though.
Anthony
Sam's
doesn't know
good.
about basketball.
Sam knows it. Well, I don't know about football. I come on and make a fool of myself.
I know, you just did.
I know.
You do know the Bengals picked number 1, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no way they
They're gonna
can
take the
not
LSU
get Joe Burrow.
quarterback.
Yes, that's Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, right.
All right. So, yeah,
I
Anthony,
just can't guarantee any more that any quarterback pick number 1 should be franchise tag marked, a superstar quarterback immediately.
No,
like
they
he
shouldn't,
did, Mike.
but Joe Burrow is. I
Well,
said the same
time
thing
will
about
tell.
Andrew Luck, and he was. Unfortunately, the Colts were pathetic and messed him up. I said the same thing about John Elway, and it was right. Most guys
I still
are
think
not that way.
Luck is coming back. It all depends on how much
Oh,
money
God.
he invested
Sam,
into the XFL.
what did we do to deserve these two?
I don't know. I didn't expect there to be 2 of them, Mike.
I know. I didn't think we could find another Anthony.
Well, to be expected. I mean, that's my team, the Colts. Like you have the Cowboys, and Mike's got the Bungles.
Hey, see that right now? You're taking shots. At least my quarterback didn't run away and hide yet.
No, but my quarterback ran away and hid with a boatload of money from Mr. Irsay.
From an alcoholic, who is why he probably doesn't want to play there. All right.
Probably.
So, check out Sam at Sam Teets 5, correct, Sam?
Yeah.
33.
33,
Well, I
whatever.
think it's Sam. I think it's diversity.
Why do you think of diversity when you think of Sam?
Because he talks about a lot of different sports.
Okay. Sam, do you know what Dan Dockage said about the Scottsburg coaching job?
No, what did he do?
It doesn't matter then. Go look it up, and you can come on with me and Steve either tonight or tomorrow. But, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Make sure you check out the FF Face-Off. Keep an eye out for Surviving Advances. Basically, whenever me and Steve get bored, we're going to do a show. The NFL show will be back Monday at 1 o'clock with me, Anthony, and Sam. And make sure you check out all the shows on The Grueling Truth. You can find us anywhere there are podcasts, including Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, you name it, we're there. So for now, for Sam Teets, Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.